What I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about is the confusion about sunscreen and sun and what it does to your skin in the aging process. So we hear about UVA, UVB, sun rays. We hear about physical versus chemical sunblock, zinc oxide, SPF, water resistant, waterproof. What we need to do is we need to understand what those words actually mean and how sunlight, and actually now studies are saying heat and our computer screens or our mobile cellular devices or our iPads, any system that we're using, are causing or helping to speed up the process of aging, and how we want to work forward to learn to protect it for now and for the future. So a little bit about my background. I've worked with Dr. Curtis Waters for 4 years. My background is actually hospitality management. So I was in restaurant management for 30 years. And I did a lot of the marketing, a lot of the coordination, a lot of catering, a lot of just general management. And I know Dr. Waters and his wife for about 15 of those years. And they came to me and they said, do you know anybody that would be interested in coming and bringing our market team to Cascade Med Spa, because it was kind of an unknown entity, even though it had been in business for about 6 years at that time. Not a lot of people knew about it. So I said, I would be, and so we joined together. And so in the first year of my job, I had to try most everything that you'll see on the menu, okay? So those of you who know anything about skincare, it was like a gift. So every day I would come home, my husband would look at my face and he'd be like, what did you do? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm training still, honey. And I have to try these things that help with skincare, anti-aging, and et cetera. The great thing about working with Dr. Waters is I work at Cascade Med Spa. He oversees and manages that spa. And then next door, he actually physically offices there. So he will see, he's an ear, nose, and throat and cosmetic surgeon. So if you go to Dr. Waters, you might talk to him about any like plastic surgery. You might talk to him about waxing your ears. You might talk to him about hearing. He has a very diverse range of things that he sees clients for. But what I'm here today is I'm going to focus a little bit about what he offers that we at this generation can really do. I know we've done the sun damage to our skin. We've gotten to, mid-50s and beyond. What can we do now moving forward that will help us in the future? So definitely as we mature, the sun is going to cause most of the skin damages that we see now in our 50s, 60s, 70s, and beyond. A lot of that damage is caused by the sun itself. The ultraviolet lights are really what we're considering when we're considering sun damage, and that breaks down to the UVB and UVA rays. And then also, as I mentioned before, we get into blue light, which is now new in the market as far as our cell phones, our laptops, our computers. That is starting to affect us as far as sun damage, even inside not being exposed to the sun. Also, another interesting thing that has come out recently is that people that work in high temperature jobs are actually having some problems with skin cancer. And the best example of that is a baker, okay? Someone that's in and out of like an industrial size oven where you're actually walking into the oven, grabbing your baking sheets out of the oven, taking them back in and getting quick high exposure to heat. That is also causing sun damage. So when you look at how many people wear sunscreen every day, okay? A couple people, great, that's amazing. 4 years ago, before I started this job, I'm like, I don't need sunscreen every day. I'm not outside every day. I mean, it's just something that I don't need. But now that I have the knowledge of, videos like this, the skin products, I mean, we realize that if we're driving down a road, it's still like a truck driver. For example, they've done studies with truck drivers where you actually look at one side of their face and you look at the other. And they split the picture, so people, when they're looking at him, are looking at two different pictures, and they say, how old with the sunscreen damage or with the sun damage do you think this man is? Okay, So when they looked at this side where he's actually driving alongside the road, windows up, but he's still getting that sunscreen, versus how old he looked from this side over, same picture, just divided in half, there was a difference of 12 years, okay? And that's from driving inside your vehicle, mostly with his, with his window up, okay? So we know those rays are coming through that protective barrier. Sun damage doesn't always come out when you're young, but unfortunately, as you mature, that's when you start seeing the residual effects of what we've done in our younger years. I know for me, I'm 51. When in my younger ages, the big thing was laying out on a rooftop with a silver blanket, with iodine all over my body. I was just like, and then if you had blonde hair, you wanted to wear sun in. So what happens is, and you guys may have done similars, our mothers didn't put sunscreen on us so much. If we went out to the lake for the entire day, we might get oh, here, honey, come put a little sunscreen on me, just because we weren't educated back at then. So we were, considered sun goddesses because we felt like our skin looked better with a little bit of tan, which it did. You have a healthy glow and everything like that. But what that has done in, if you go back, 3 decades, into my 20s, what I did then is going to start coming out now in my 50s, okay? So what do we do about it, okay? How do we move forward in our 60s, 70s, and beyond, and what do we do with it now? Is kind of the question about skincare. So we want to educate ourselves, and that's what the sunscreen talks about. So I would encourage you, if you're buying a sunscreen for yourself or your family members, to take some of this information that I gave you, a brochure on EltaMD, and look for certain things when you're buying it. Unfortunately, if you're buying over-the-counter sunscreen at a local place, a lot of times you're not going to find the items that I want you to find in these sunscreen. And that's sad, because really we should only be selling sunscreen that's going to do the things that we want it to do. We don't want it to just prevent burns, which is what you're going to find most over the counter if you walk into any local store. Okay, you're going to find SPF 45, you're going to find SPF 100, you're going to have, even the 120s. That's going to help you not burn, okay? But what we're finding is that is a part of a ray that's only going to be about 10% of the rays that are out there. That's not going to protect you from 90% of the rays that are coming in that are ultimately going to cause some of these damages. So, number one thing that you're going to look for is you're going to look for a broad spectrum sunscreen, okay? That's going to be really helpful because that's going to protect you from these UVA and UVB rays that are coming in and working against your skin, which will add a little aging process. Very important to start when we're younger, because whatever we do when we're 20 or even when we're 8, so you think about your kids and grandkids, are going to have a big effect on you as you mature and you're in your 50s, 60s, and 70s and beyond, okay? The other thing you want to look for is you want to look for a couple very specific ingredients, and the number one thing is zinc oxide. So when zinc oxide came out a few years ago, it kind of reminded me when you bought a sunscreen and you put it on, and I don't know if you ever saw the commercials in the 80s or 90s, and you put the zinc oxide on if you were a lifeguard and it made your nose entirely white, okay? That's what zinc oxide used to do because it was such a heavy concentration of zinc. So people were like, well, I know I should be wearing zinc oxide, but I don't want to wear this because I don't want to look like I'm white, and you know how that white turns almost into a purple hue? And so people were like turned off by that. This particular product that I'm showing you today is called EltaMD, and I'm going to pass these around. But these are broad spectrum sunscreens. They're SPF 40, and I'll get into the higher SPFs and lower SPFs. But you'll see that one of them has a tint in it, okay? So anybody that wants to try a tint, you can try it on your face or on your hand. This particular moisturizer is a moisturizer, sunscreen, and tint, so it's one-stop shopping, but you'll see very little of the zinc oxide, so it's something that anyone can wear all day. So for anybody that doesn't want a tint, you can try the non-tint, which is actually, it's a little bit hard to tell the difference. There's just a small tinted up here. Go ahead and try the untinted. You will see a little bit of that zinc oxide come through this product, but not what you would have seen back in the 80s or 90s, and you can just try those and pass those along. Just a little pump will give you exactly what you need to try that. And again, if you have any questions in between all of this and all these terminologies that I'm using, but that'll give you kind of a good feeling of what zinc oxide is today. So we want to be looking at broad spectrum, and we want to look for zinc oxide, okay? So SPF, you know, I have kids that are 22 and 24. And so I remember going to the store, I was just like, okay, I need SPF 80. Oh, they came out with 100. This is great. You know, I could take my kids to the beach and I can put 100 on them and I'm gonna be okay because that's 2 times better than 50, so I should be able to leave that on them all day. Well, that's absolutely not the truth, okay? So what you're looking for is anything dermatologists recommend 15 or above. I personally recommend in my industry, I recommend a 30 or above. If you get a 30, that doesn't mean that if you get a 60, it's twice as much protection. At 30 SPF applied correctly, we're getting about a 95 to 96% protection from the UVA and UVB rays, which is what we're looking for, okay? So as in the case of SPF, more is not always better. Okay, which is hard to get in our minds because we think, okay, double the amount, okay? But the problem that happens with that is mentally you think double the amount, I should go double the time. And that's not necessarily true. You want to put your sunscreen on 15 to 20 minutes prior to going outside, or prior to any sun exposure, or prior to the beginning of your day. And then if you're being exposed to the sun, you want to put it on every 2 hours, regardless of what you're doing. However, if you're in the water, you're gonna put it on every time you get out of the water. So every time you get out of the water and towel off, you need to reapply your SPF, okay? So that brings us into waterproof, water resistant. What do those terms mean? So they have finally outlawed waterproof products. They can't, it's not that they outlawed the products. They outlawed people that were advertising that because no sunscreen can be waterproof. No sunscreen will outlast if you go in the water and you towel off afterwards. It just doesn't happen. So you won't see that on the products that you go to the store to buy today. They can be water resistant. So even in the UltraMD line that I'm talking a little bit about today, you can have a sport. So like for those of you, how many golf or go out, doing a brisk walk? Okay, so people that are like coming to a bead, to a sweat, or being out in the golf course for an extended amount of time, we would recommend a water-resistant product. Not that you're going to go into the water and have your sunscreen wear off, but you're going to create the perspiration. So if you're out golfing on a hot day, if you create water on your face, you're going to utilize your sunscreen a little bit more. So it's good to go with a water-resistant. Okay, still does not mean that you don't need to apply your sunscreen every 2 hours, even though it's water resistant. So does anybody have any questions about the different products and what you're looking for when you go shopping? Because this is one thing that I really want you to come out of today. So the next time you go to buy a sunscreen and you think about your family and what they're doing, that you're really educated on the difference of UVA and UVB, what you're looking for, broad spectrum, SPF 40 or higher, and zinc oxide.
How often do you reapply that? Is it still the same every 2 hours?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, okay.
It's still the same 2 hours, but it's going to give you, like if you put, say for example, if I was gonna golf, 9 holes or whatever, and I would put a non-water resistant sunscreen on, then I should apply more because I'm not using a product that's going to be good for what I'm doing. For example, if I'm out golfing and sweating or doing a run or walking or whatever it is I'm doing. Good question.
How do you put it on your scalp?
Put it on your scalp, that's hard because we work all day, all morning to get our hair looking beautiful. You know, it is what it is. You know, definitely you want to apply it just like you're going to shampoo your hair. You know, go ahead and just, you know, as our you know, hair thins, you know, we're going to get exposure to the sun through our hair. You know, we always recommend a broad-rimmed hat if you're going to be out gardening or walking, and you can have that extra protection. But definitely, it's, you know, it's almost like, you know, put it on both your hands and just rub it into your scalp like you would in for the rest of your body. Unfortunately, is it going to make your hair a little bit greasy and matted? Yeah. I wish there was an answer around that. Good question.
There is, wear a hat.
Well, yeah, you can wear a hat, okay? There is a great, okay, but you think about hats today, okay? And my husband farms, which I'm sure you guys are, you know, farming community. So when he wears a baseball hat, most of the time it's a tight mesh weave, okay? That tight mesh weave, or even a weave on a, you know, like a sunbonnet or anything like that, you're still getting exposure through that. It's still like you're getting exposure through the window when you're driving this semi. You're still getting an exposure to that. So if you're going to be out gardening from 10 to 2, I would say number one, you should garden from 8 to 10 to get less exposure, but you're still going to get exposure. So if you really want to be extremely cautious, if you're going to be out in the prime part of the day, like if you're taking kids to the swimming pool and they're going to sit outside, it's a little sunscreen on the head. As far as sunscreen?
Yeah.
Okay, now, even if we wear sunscreen, that doesn't mean that you're not going to get tan. Like if you look at my skin, I mean, I wear sunscreen every day, but that I'm still, when I'm out in the sun or driving or anything like that, I'm still going to get the pigmentation. But what I'm not doing is I'm not getting it at that deeper level that's really going to cause as much sun damage in my later years, okay? So even though if we're applying sunscreen every 2 hours, we're using a zinc product, we're using broad spectrum, you are still going to get color on your skin unless you're completely covered with the protection like swimmers use them. You know, they're completely covered with the shirts that take out 100% of the UVA and UVB rays. That will basically, so you won't get dark at that point. But yeah, good point though.
I've always had a shirt, but not this year so far.
Yeah.
But it's word on one side.
You know, we've maybe done the sun damage to our skin as younger adults because we didn't know better. But what do we do moving forward? What do we want to treat? Do we want to, you know, the one thing that I tell anybody that comes into our clinic is use sunscreen, sunscreen, sunscreen every day. If someone tells me, what is the one thing that I can do that is going to help me move forward? That would be the number one thing, okay? So that's number one. In addition, Christine, would you mind handing out these sample packs for me? There's just one for everybody. Thank you. In addition to that, if you want to be more advanced, that's entirely up to you. So we offer free consultations at our Cascade Med Spa. So our estheticians will bring any client in and they'll say, you know, what area do you want to treat? You know, if they look at me, you know, I might say underneath my eyes is the area that bothers me. Or I might have pigmentation and freckles in this area for sun exposure. Or it might be the wrinkles that are starting by my eyes. Everyone is a little bit different in, you know, what area that they want to treat. So if we're getting into a treatment stage and we want to do something about the damage that we've done over the last 30, 40, 50 years, you know, we'll start talking about steps, okay? Second thing I want you to do is I want you to exfoliate, 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 okay? So what that means is as we mature, our skin doesn't turn over like it did in the 20s, you know, in the 30s. By the time you're mid-20s, your exfoliation rate goes down. So it's not even in your 40s or 50s. I mean, it's from the time you're mid-20s. So what that means is your cells here on the top of your skin don't turn over as much. Okay, so when you look at somebody in their early 20s, they have that healthy glow, and as we mature, we don't see that as much, is because our skin is not exfoliating and not turning over. Okay, so one of the products I put in your bags today is a very simple foaming facial cleanser. When you put it on, and It's if you don't want to use it as a facial cleanser, I'll tell you what else you can use it for. But when you put it on and you actually rub it into your skin, what it's going to do is it might tingle a little bit, but then it's almost going to look like a white foam on the top of your skin surface, almost like a shaving cream, like when we used to use Barbicide or still use. And what it does is it draws some of the, the dirt and helps exfoliate the top layer of your skin. Very gentle, very mild. Another LTMD product, so that's like the second stage. So sunscreen, and then I'm going to tell you to exfoliate, okay? Then we start working about different things. Do we start working with moisturizers? We start working with maybe a tretinoin or a retinol that they mentioned in the screen. Those are pharmaceutical products. Obviously, washing our face and using like a foaming facial cleanser like this. Oh, I forgot to tell you what else you can use it for. It's great for men for shaving their face. Okay, so it's a little foam on there. You can shave your face, or women for shaving their underarms or their legs. It's great. So back to after we exfoliate, we really need to moisturize. Even if your skin is oily, which typically 50s, 60s and beyond, we don't have a lot of oil in our skin, but even if it's oily, we still need to moisturize, okay? Second thing you want to do is, in addition to exfoliate, you're going to reduce the exposure to the sun, or you're going to reduce your exposure during the peak times of the day, okay? So if your choice to go for a brisk walk, go at, 8 in the morning versus 10, which just makes sense. It's more comfortable. Where in Minnesota, it's humid as all heck, so who really wants to be out walking or playing golf at 2 o'clock in the afternoon anyways? Okay? And skin cancer is a hot topic right now. I'm sure all of you know someone that has skin cancer. Back to the age when our mom was like, go to the beach, honey, here's what, you'll be good for the day. Nobody talked about skin cancer. Now I see it to the point where we call it a Mohs removal. And unfortunately, it gets to the point where you have the rotten kind of skin cancer. Typically, we see it a lot on the nose, on the ears. The tips of the ears are a really hot spot. Remember to put sunscreen here. And what happens during that procedure is they surgically remove a part, say you have it here, your nose. They keep on removing that skin layer until all your skin cancer cells are removed, okay? Why do I see that at Dr. Waters' office? Well, what happens is after the surgery is done, you have a large hole, maybe it's a quarter size, maybe part of your nostril is missing. So then they come to Dr. Waters to get cosmetic surgery, because then we're going to take a flap of skin from down here or wherever, and we're going to put it back onto that area to grow that. So very serious, so can we help that? Yes, we can, because we're going to use what? Sunscreen, broad spectrum with zinc on a daily basis, okay? So it looks like I'm about out of time here. I did put a brochure from LTMD. It does have some other products. I'm not selling LTMD to you today. I'm selling the fact that I want you to look for those products with those particular items that you need to have in the product. If you have any questions about LTMD, I put my business card in there. We're located in Baxter. We're conveniently located by Walmart. Also in there is a menu of our services that kind of talks about if you want to change any of the things that the sun damage has done to you over the years, we'd be happy to set up a free consultation and you can come in and see us. So that's the end of my speech. I'm hoping that you guys have lots of questions for me. Yes?